So I have to thank first Claudia and Horst and the rest of the panel for rearranging things around my terrible schedule. It's great to be able to speak here, so thank you. And I hope I can come back next year and actually enjoy the festival. 2 hours, it seems incredible. So I wanted to start off with by quoting the novelist Ian McEwan. He says, "I often wonder what theoretical physicists do all day. My fancy is that they're rather like novelists and sit there with their feet on the radiator staring out the window." And so this is a picture of me in my office at CERN, fulfilling Ian's fantasies. But so what are theoretical physicists thinking about when they're staring out of the window? They're thinking about the kind of questions like this. What is the world made of? How does the universe work? How did the universe begin? But more importantly than the how questions, theoretical particle physics actually asks the why questions. So why is nature the way it is? Why does the universe work like it is? Why did the universe begin? And why are we even here at all? And I think it's true that art and science are both doing the same thing from different points of view. They're both kind of investigating what it means to be human, how we interact with the environment around us. And I think at their best, both art and science are really exploring the boundaries of human experience. And of course, the framework in which they do this is very different, but the way that they pose the questions are very different. And I'm going to talk to you about the framework in which I pose these questions, which is particle physics. And I'm going to do it through the medium of 1980s hip-hop. So I've tried this once before, and I figure that if I keep repeating it, it's going to sound less and less unreasonable, so here it goes again. I want you to imagine that you were born into a world in which the only music that existed is the music of Boogie Down Productions, who are a hip-hop group from the 1980s from New York. And so if you haven't heard of them, this is perfect, because you're just like a baby being born into this world. And so as you grow up, you're going to probably be inspired by the music that you hear. And all you hear, of course, is BDP in this strange world. And it will inspire you, and you might want to start investigating it. And one of the first things you might do as an investigation is to just look at the lyrics of the tracks that you hear. And if you do this, on the track I'm Still Number One of the album By All Means Necessary, you see the following verse. Sleeping Bag Records, they're down with us. My lawyer Jay is down with us. Jive RCA is down with us. Making funky music is a must. I'm number one. Okay, and so what I've highlighted here in red is a really important thing that you've discovered. You've discovered a principle. Making funky music is a must. You've understood something about this world. The music that's in it has to be funky. And principles are really important. They can organize your thoughts. So once you have this principle, you can then go out and explore how Boogie Down Productions BDP actually does it. As you find out, for instance, there are 3 main members. There's KRS-One, D-Nice, Scott La Rock, and you can understand how they kind of interact with each other. KRS-One he's got the Blastmaster, he does the vocals. D-Nice is a beatboxer, so he lays down beats, and DJ Scott La Rock is a DJ, he's on the turntables. And they have these interactions, they make their music, and there's other players as well, Kenny Parker, DJ Red Alert, Miss Melody, and you can find out everything about how they work. But the point is this, if you live in this world, and once you're happy with it, you understand everything about BDP, you can say, well, I know this principle, making funky music. You can start to ask, well, if this is the principle, I understand how it works, but why this? Why BDP? Does it have to be hip-hop? Does funky music have to be hip-hop? Do you have to have 3 founding members? Does it have to be minimal production with sparse beats? You can start to ask these questions. In other words, you can be asking the question, surely there are other ways of making funky music. Why do we not live in a world where there is James Brown, for example? And this is exactly the same question that we're asking at the forefront of particle physics today. This kind of question, in the following way. We're all born into the universe that we live in, this universe, and it inspires us to varying degrees to go out and understand how it works. And one way of understanding how our universe works is through the medium of science, and by doing scientific experiments. And the scientific experiments that are relevant to what I'm going to talk were done at the turn of the 20th century, so experiments that led to Einstein's theory of special relativity, and the theory that nature is quantum mechanical. So when you look at very small distances, things are really weird and strange down there. And these are principles of nature. So you've done a scientific experiment, and you've obtained principles. So the principles on the left-hand side, special relativity and quantum mechanics, these were understood in the 1900s. Once you've understood those, you can then go out and do experiments, more scientific experiments, and really try and find out how the world, our universe, does this, how it adheres to these principles. And it turns out that the way it does this is when you look at things very small, subatomic, smaller than atoms, you find out that the world can be described by a bunch of particles. And these are fundamental particles. There are particles called quarks. There are two of these. These are subatomic. They live inside protons and neutrons, which in turn live inside nuclei, which make up atoms. There's a fundamental particle called an electron, and there's another type of particle called neutrino. And in fact, there's a bunch of other particles, but they're all the same as these, really. They're just copies of these. And so there's a list of particles. And we can also now do understand how they interact with each other, how they work, how they talk to each other. And the way that they interact with each other we call forces. And these are the forces of nature. So you may have heard of the forces of electromagnetism. You may have heard of the Higgs boson. This is a kind of force between these particles. And we understand everything about the way that they do this. There are particles associated with the Higgs force. There's a Higgs boson, which I'm sure have heard that LHC has discovered recently. The particle associated with the electromagnetic force, you may have heard of a photon. This is a quantum of light, like a quantum of a radio wave or an X-ray. It's a single particle of light. And we really understand everything about it. This is called the standard model of particle physics. But you see, the point is, we have these principles. We live in this world. We can ask the same question to people that were living in the Boogie Down Productions world. We have these principles. Why this? Why this particular list of particles? This is just what nature gives us. It's not sort of fundamental. Why do they have these forces? So in the same way, Boogie Down Productions, making funky music, is a principle. This is one way of doing it, we understand that, but we can ask the question, why not James Brown? Where's James Brown? We do the same question here. We have the principles of special relativity and quantum mechanics, and we can ask, why this particular list of forces? Why their particular interactions between each other? Because we could write down an infinite number of theories that actually satisfy these principles. And so these are the kind of why questions. And there are many, many why questions that are still being asked. There's a lot of unresolved questions. And what's incredible within this framework of particle physics is the way in which we're asking them. We've set up this kind of framework, and it's fucking strange, right? We're asking questions about particles, and he's answering questions about the universe, and how the universe began. This is supposed to be a theory that describes the universe all the way back to within a billionth of a second. And so these are why questions. Why is the world like what it is? I think actually, with the start of this, Ryoji's Residency at CERN, the start of the program was a two-year thing. But a lot of the talks that we have, conversations we've had that focus on particle physics, have kind of naturally approached these why questions more than any other question. Okay, so I mean, I'm fascinated by how CERN will inspire Ryoji, and fascinated to see what will come out of it. Whether it be something that's kind of more particle-like and localized, or whether it's something that's going to be dispersive and wave-like throughout his work. I wanted to finish by, I know there's no questions and answers. I wanted to finish by asking a question that I get asked. The first question people ask me in this context, which is, what do you get out of this? What do you think you will get out of this? And at the moment, I decided this is kind of like someone asking me, do you think learning piano when you're younger has influenced your science? And kind of the answer in a way is obviously yes, but it's extremely difficult to say how it does it. It's definitely a more dispersive kind of wavelength. Anyway, I thank you for listening. I do have to go. Any technical questions about particle physics, Ryoji will handle in his next talk, so thanks very much.